Hey everybody, welcome to Raising Vibrations. So in this video, I'm going to be talking about Venus and Pluto conjunction and continuing the conversation that we've been having with all of the planets in Aquarius at the moment. Yesterday, we talked about Mars and Pluto conjunction and the emergent energy that is filtering into our consciousness from the subconscious. And what we're noticing is deep emotional patterns that have been laying dormant within our emotional field, sort of becoming inflamed. And then we're noticing it pulsate into our awareness and be like, oh, okay, yeah, I can feel this now. I can feel this anger. I can feel this unresolved dynamic that is still part of my emotional landscape that I need to address, or I need to confront, or I need to allow for it to become more conscious in my conscious mind so that I can understand its root intention. And then on top of that, we have the actual conjunction itself, which is the evolutionary intention to decentralize ourselves from pre-existing conditioning patterns within ourselves that we've emotionally internalized. So an example could be something like, let's say, throughout your life, a core message that you've received is you are not worth it. Okay, you are worthless. And so as an adult, when you apply for a job or you put yourself in a situation that you want to benefit from in some way, you may second guess yourself. You may notice that you don't take that step and commit to something. You may undervalue yourself in a relationship, and it kind of has this echoing negative effect. So this energy with these planets in Aquarius is the sort of, it's setting up the ability for us to move beyond these internalized messages or emotional positions that we take about our lives and grow beyond them, right? To move beyond them. So now that we have Venus making its conjunction to Pluto, which we can see on the screen at the moment with regards to the chart, we now bring the dimension of this Venus element into the play. And if you rewatch the first video, and then after watching this one, you'll start to see like the pieces come together a little bit more. Again, one of the reasons why Mars and Venus are very important to study and why this is an important conjunction is not only is this conjunction going to bring us over the next couple of years a completely new emotional and psychological landscape internally for ourselves, but also the way that people relate to each other, and then eventually how societies will start to define what is the right constitution of relationships within the fabric of societies. So this is an important one. And again, that underlying sort of energy in the Aquarius signature is to completely make things redundant, or to reveal where redundancies exist. Aquarius is very much about accelerating beyond the current moment and then pointing back to it and saying, that feels like it's outdated now. So the redundancy of the pattern of self-worth would be what an effect could happen with this Mars-Pluto, Mars-Venus, Venus-Pluto conjunction. Okay, does this sound clear? So now you know what you're looking for. It's like, aha, things that are occurring in my life right now, where are these patterns that are not serving me and are not benefiting me and are consistently keep bringing me negative experiences, or not so much negative experiences, but I know I can grow beyond this. I just have to address it. That's the sentence for ourselves right now, for all of us. How can I grow beyond what I am currently limited by? And in order for me to grow beyond that, I have to ask myself the question, am I prepared to accept these limitations and recognize that they're there so that I can then adapt by growing beyond them, or then choosing to look for different ways to move from this space and into something completely new. So there's a very potent energy to say, I'm ready for something new. I'm ready to move beyond this. And I also understand that these pre-existing limitations no longer support me and my emotional health, my mental health. And I would like to, I'd like to grow beyond this. Like that's the current frame of mind, the mental attitude, the emotional position to take. with these transits. Okay. So this Pluto-Mars conjunction, sorry, not Pluto-Mars conjunction, but Pluto-Venus conjunction is also massively loaded. Okay. And I say that because I'm going to talk about different branches of how this transit is loaded, and I'm going to attempt to see if I can be coherent with it. Okay. Because it's pretty deep. So the first avenue I'm going to take is all of us at some point in our lives, okay, had a inner connection to ourselves, and we also then had that connection to what the world is. So as children and young babies, for example, like when we're growing up, we are consistently impressed with the way that the world is. Okay. And a large percentage of those impressions would come from parents, the school system that we were a part of, friends, and then eventually through extension, kind of the larger scope of governmental structures. So these multiple layers that are consistently interfacing and impressing themselves on us. And then we have a sort of internal mechanism that then relates to that. Like then we meet the layering of who is mom and dad in my life, who are these other people that are friends of mom and dad and maybe our grandparents, etc. And then we have friends and our kind of immediate social environment, which could be school. And then we kind of have this weird thing that our parents will say, or the world will say, it will be like, oh, these are the rules. This is what the rules are. As an example, like the teachers, for instance, will say, here's the rules in the school, don't do this, as an example. And so early on, each of us are in this constant dynamic relationship between these layers of external projections and impressions and our own sense making into that. That is the Venus archetype. Okay. That's that interchange between external and internal and how those things meet. That's the Venus archetype. Okay. So mechanically speaking, all of us then through these interactions will develop a third reality, which is our perceptions and our emotional responses to these rules, these values, the way that we experience the attachments to the parents, the relationship dynamics that are at play with our friends, or the general social environment around us. And then, of course, the context of these institutions, right? These institutions like schools, as an example, and their rules. So you're starting to kind of get the picture here that if you take a step back, for instance, and you really drop into the space of who have I been, how I've been shaped in relation to these layers around me. Okay. When you kind of drop into that space and you really pull back and you move into seeing how these layers impress on you and then how you are made up based on the way that you interact with these impressions. So if, for instance, you had a parental dynamic that was absent on one level and then another parental dynamic that was maybe not emotionally unavailable, it would deeply impact your capacity to feel safe in terms of external circumstances and situations, because the boundary of where things are good and safe and where there is danger may be completely absent to you. And then there's the uncertainty of, say, one of the parent dynamics that is inconsistent. So you might develop a relationship to the world that says, well, the world is, there's always inconsistencies with the world, and so therefore I don't trust. And so therefore then if you're in that kind of example, or that type of dynamic, you may then as an adult start to notice the relationship patterns that you bring to life as an adult and to your social environments, etc., are shaped by that. Okay. And often with all of us, these impressions and these dilemmas that we interact with as young children, try to make sense of the world, and as we grow older, and we try to make sense of things, these things, they play out consistently, and we want to try and like liberate ourselves from these patterns that we have within ourselves that on most parts we may be conscious of, but we maybe not know what the subconscious driver is about. Okay, well, what's that subconscious driver that is affording me this way in which I attach to or I form relationships and then notice these patterns play out like an inconsistent, I don't want to trust this person because they gave me the impression that they're like mom, for instance, or I don't want to go on an adventure with this person that invites me to do this thing because how do I know if the world is safe? Because dad never maybe created that environment that said this is what's safe and this is what's not, as an example. And these are very idealistic, ideal states, like very short, small percentage of people, some of you probably watching this, that have had both of those patterns within your life present. But for the most of us that are living and watching this video, we do, I mean, all of us have, regardless of if that's the case. But you get what I'm trying to say here, that these things deeply impact the way that we relate to the world. This is what part of Pluto-Venus conjunction is about, okay? It's an opportunity to become aware of, so step back, Aquarius, detach yourself from as much as you can, and observe potential subconscious drivers, Pluto, that are, in a sense, influencing your relation capacity and capabilities, okay? And the energy in Aquarius is, how can I, through this observation, accept that this is what it was, this is how it occurred for me in my life growing up, these are the things that shaped me, and then from that acceptance, begin to open up to new ways of behaving, new ways of responding, Pluto conjunct Mars, that affords you a freedom or a decentralization or a moving beyond this pattern that has been consistently recursive in your way of being and your thinking and your emotional patterning. Okay? Now, the square that Mars, Venus, Pluto is making to Jupiter, and then eventually all of these planets will, Mars, Venus will make a square to Uranus in Taurus, is why I speak about the emotional dynamics and and internal relationship patterns that we have within ourselves. The reason why I'm speaking about them is because this is the area that these transits are activating. Okay? So let me tell you why. The Taurus archetype in the human experience is the instinct to self-preserve. Okay? At the fundamental baseline. When we come into the world and we start to get exposed by all of the different rules, structures, and orders, if you step beyond those boundaries, beyond those rules, beyond those orders, there is a high likelihood that in some way, shape, or form, you would have been informed by the environment through feedback that this was incorrect, this was wrong, this is not allowed, bad, you, wrong, etc. So you would have had these messagings that would have said, here's the right way to be, here's the wrong way to be, here's the social taboo, here's the acceptable behavior, this is right, this is wrong. And as you navigate the world, you start to form a picture of it based on these yes-nos. Now, growing up, you have to navigate in a world where this primal instinct of preservation is at the core. And this primal instinct of preservation is essential as an instinct to keep you alive. And so therefore you will fawn or respond to those dilemmas, those situations with a, well, this is what's authentic for me, but I can't be authentic in this moment because the consequence of this action or this choice or this behaviorism is negative, and so therefore shut down or repress. So for all of us right now, what is really emerging with Pluto-Mars conjunction, then eventually the trigger of Venus-Pluto conjunction, is the exposing, Pluto, of all of the unresolved or underlying patterns of disassociation or the consequences of the act of self-preservation in a time of your life where that was priority, but now it's not. And so therefore it affords you to be less authentic because there is belief systems or responses or triggers or definitions that are around those behaviorisms that keep you preserving, right? It keeps you preserved. So it's like stay like this. So people please, because at the time people pleasing earlier formation was staying alive, whereas now it's like it's actually it's harming you and it's disarming your capacity for agency, and then it's leading you down a road where your ability to feel free in the context of relationship dynamics plays out, and you get the point I'm trying to make here. So the core energy right now is speaking to what is beneath the surface that had to be there at one earlier point that affords safety, but now addressing them and beginning to free yourself from those patterns, whatever that is and whatever that takes, is an essential, like it's an essential alignment. Like being in alignment with this way affords the liberation dynamic that is held within this Mars-Venus-Pluto conjunction. Okay? Because then when you start to see the Chiron North Node conjunction and you start to see the solar eclipse that's going to happen, there's so much energy about fresh beginnings and new opportunities that if you arrive to that point and you're still carrying some of this baggage, you may not necessarily be able to fully step into that authenticity and into that agency and into the ability to be more assertive with your life, because these things are in a sense holding you back. The fears, right? The fear of being yourself is holding you back. That's a kind of glimpse into what we'll be doing when we talk about Chiron North Node, right? The fear that holds you back from fully being in who you are. And so it's this energy right now setting us up for the awareness to begin decentralizing relationship patterns that we have within ourselves that are outdated, no longer working, maladaptive, and afford you the ability to remain dislocated, disassociated, disembodied from your ability to have that assertive agency that gives you the ability to say, yes, this is my life and let me live it. Okay, you got that? That is the sort of, this is it. This is the Pluto potential here with Venus. And it starts now. It starts now. Okay, so before I close up today's conversation, I've been talking about the Immersion Program. So what I want to do is I want to show you a little bit about how we can reconnect with these archetypes in a living sense. So for this small little exercise that's actually really, really basic, it's that what I do is I encourage you to, before doing this exercise, to do the small little breathwork practice, which is what you do is you simply just put your hand on your heart like this or hand on the chest, and you take 2 short inhalations. Okay, so it's like this, like that. Okay, and once you've got that kind of breath that's there, then I want you to just breathe out all of the air that's possible that you have within your body. So it's just like a slow exhalation, like this, for as long as you can, until you kind of have released and deflated yourself. And then again, as you get to that deflate point, just return to 2 breaths in, short, and then do it again. What will happen then is you will start to come back to what is called salient landscaping. This is part of the brain that is consistently paying attention to all of the variances in the environment. And oftentimes when we're kind of hijacked in our nervous system, we're disassociated from that salient landscaping. So you want to first come into that salient landscaping. If you've done this exercise correctly, you'll notice that things feel and you experience a lot more sensitivity to your environment, a lot more sort of awareness, and there's a calmness as well. Then after you've done that, again, as I said, just keeping your hand over here, just close your eyes and just slowly begin to regress back and drop back into a part of yourself and to start reconnecting with that inner child. start deeply connecting with the inner child. So just what I'm doing right now that works for me is I just slowly just move my body back down as if I'm going from my adult self all the way slowly, slowly starting to allow my emotional landscaping to just drop into my 7-year-old self, my 13-year-old self. Just those memories, just that place that's there. Just kind of come to that. And then from there, just without any thinking, just notice what you feel. Notice what memories come up. Notice what you feel. A lot of us will feel potential, like in my case, Mars, Venus square the nodes in the 8th house, a lot of loss, a lot of inconsistency with attachment. The memory shows up right now. Feel a lot of sadness around it. Didn't get explained. Why would mom go? Not explain where she's going and only come back 2 hours later. I needed to know. And again, just keep on going back, staying in that space, noticing what comes up, just noticing the types of patterns. And then finally, as long as you want, but because this video, I don't want it to go on too long, just get to a place where you feel that you are connected to that part of yourself. And then as you slowly come back to the surface, right? So you come to that, you're present with that person that's there. I want you to slowly come back into the conscious part of yourself. And as you come to a place where you feel a little bit rested, a little bit sort of attuned to that, I want you to, over the next couple of days, really ask yourself, not ask yourself as in like, oh, but like really reflect on how that person could be potentially driving the emotional responses of the adult that you're consciously co-piloting every single time. That's the one thing. The second thing is, what one pattern, when you've regressed back to, could you accept that can't be changed in that moment? But if you could see it from the place that you're at right now as a parent, right? Like as you ask yourself, how can I change that pattern? How can I decentralize or break apart or open up that part of that patterning that at that time a belief was formed, whatever that was? Just consistently keep having that conversation, opening up a dialogue with that part and saying, hey, this must have been tough. I know that you needed, right? That in my case, I know that you needed that clarity. Just like, hey, I need a break. Today was a very tough day. I know that's difficult for you to understand, but I'm just going out to wherever. And that conversation to me may have given me the sense that, hey, it's not me that's causing mom to go. That might just be the world, maybe mom's like whatever. And so it's not my fault. Because that sense of this is my fault can plays out emotionally as an adult. Right? And the core of that stems at that moment where that internalization of, oh, if somebody leaves, then it's me. But that's not the case. The world's more complicated than that. You see what I mean? Okay. So that's where I'm going to leave everybody today. I would love to hear your thoughts and comments in the comment section. Stick around for the other videos that are going to be coming out as well. And I hope that you have a fantastic rest of the evening. Take care, everybody. Bye-bye.